Hey everybody, this is Matthew Soltiziak, and you're listening to Not the Same Old Lions podcast, part of the Minute Media Podcast Network. This season, it's all grit. I speak with a variety of guests and interview key players, gaining more insight on what makes this team go. The Detroit Lions are now in a new, grittier era, and we look beyond just the kneecaps when it comes to the analysis. Welcome to another episode. In this episode, we discussed the Detroit Lions' 52-14 destruction of the Tennessee Titans. The lopsided score wasn't the only eye-catching stat in this game. There were some other oddities as well that we will get to. We'll also talk about the unexpected contributions by different Lions players, discuss where the team stands in all areas after this latest victory as well. That and more. Let's get to it, Lions fans.
Hi, this is the Detroit Lions 2024 NFL Fan of the Year, Megan Stefanski, and you are listening to Not the Same Old Lions podcast.
Joining me today is James Cook, the senior sports writer for the Traverse City Record Eagle. You can also hear him on the Get Around podcast. It drops on Mondays. Good to have you here, James, as usual.
It's good to be here. 38-point margin of victory. That's it's just something you don't see much in the NFL.
Yeah, that's a college football score right there. You're exactly right. Maybe even a high school football score. And with that, we got to bring in our coach, Jerry Angers, former Michigan high school coach of the year, as well as coach of the week by the Detroit Lions and current scouting and training director of Bull Rush Sports. Coach, you've seen a lot of those scores in your day, I believe, but maybe not at the NFL level do we see those so often.
No, I've seen it a few, and it was beautiful to watch. That's for sure. 52 points in 3 quarters. Boy, is that fun to watch.
That's exactly it, too, in 3 quarters of play as well. Well, as we're getting started, we want to give a shout-out to Megan Stefanski, the Detroit Lions 2024 Fan of the Year. I tell you, if there's a dedicated fan that's deserving of it, it is definitely Megan. I only met her a year ago, and, runs Uperman's. I met her through you, James, actually. You met her the year before that, been to multiple tailgates. And so, James, you want to tell the listeners how you came across Megan and got to meet her, and we've gotten to know her on the podcast?
Yeah, well, I talked to her a little bit on Twitter and stuff about going to some of her tailgates at Lions games, and was finally able to do that at the last game of the week, last game of the season 2 years ago when they beat the Packers, and just needed that other game to go their way to make the playoffs. That didn't happen. So, but it was just cool. And then we've tailgated with her several times since, usually at games that pretty much every game we go to now.
That's awesome. And we had her as a guest on this show last football season. And if you want to learn a little bit more about her story, go to her Twitter page, because Tom Rinaldi from Fox Sports did an awesome piece about her and her dad last Thanksgiving. So give that a watch. You'll learn a lot about it. And that's awesome that Megan is the Detroit Lions 2024 Fan of the Year. Following in the footsteps of a year ago, her godfather, Robert Gonzalez, was the 2023 Fan of the Year. And so that's right in a row right there. So that's pretty cool. Okay, guys. Give me an overall reaction in one sentence or two of this game. Coach, we'll start with you.
I'm just still trying to figure out how that all happened. I mean, I was going through the numbers. I mean, 3 phases of the game, like Dan Campbell talks about. I was a coordinator, head coach, coordinator for special teams, and to do 3 phases, my goal always was, if you could win 2 of them, you had a great shot of winning a football game. And the 2 of them really put us on the right path for 52 point, or to score 52 points in one football game.
For sure. James, how about you?
Yeah, it was, we came in, we were talking about how big of a spread this game was, 11.5 points, and this being maybe a trap game for the Lions, and they certainly did not get trapped. They just came out and laid the wood to the Titans after that first quarter, I guess. The first quarter was a little closer than we expected, and then after the next 2 quarters were just complete domination. We were watching with a group of friends here, and it was just it was just amazing how complete those 2 quarters were on the domination in all 3 phases.
For sure. Yeah, my big takeaway is the Lions won big. They dominated on the scoreboard like they were supposed to, and that's where it ultimately does matter most. And they didn't give the Titans any hope as halftime started approaching, and that's also what good teams do. Well, as we get started, let's hear from Coach Campbell with his thoughts on the game.
Okay, how's it going? So credit that team. That team came out and played hard. I really felt that, and we figured they would. It's not like we didn't. So, credit to them. And I know it doesn't look that way, but we did come out to fight, and that's what we expected. I felt that we were going to be ready. We were going to be ready, and it's like I told them. That's what champions do. And you come out, you don't care what time of day it is, what the records are, what the surface is. You come out and handle your business, and we did that. Now, we did not play our cleanest ball. We really didn't. However, when you have 4 takeaways on defense, you're 5 of 5 in the red zone, and you have the returns that our special teams unit had, punt return and kick return, then you can get a lot of production and things sway your way. So, but it's a hell of a team win, And once again, this team knows how to complement itself, and all 3 units are humming. We're pretty dang good.
All right, going from Coach Campbell, let's go to you, Coach Angers. He talked about all 3 phases. He said the game wasn't perfect. There's a lot to improve on. Turnovers helped. It seemed like there was a lot of great things in that message from Campbell. What are your takeaways?
Well, I totally agree, and I think it's each and every part or facet of the game, or offense, defense, special teams. Everybody's trying to help each other out, trying to make everything best. And I think that's the biggest thing he's trying to say. And it's funny. I was one of the things that I noticed on Cleese return for a touchdown. I don't know if you guys noticed who was flying down the field, making one of the biggest blocks to spring him. And that was Anzalone. And this guy could be one of he's probably top 5 linebackers in the NFL. And those are usually, let's take a down off, let's rest a little bit. But the Detroit Lions, they give everything they have, and their warm-ups are crazy. It's just that's the greatest thing to see. And I think that's what he's saying is, you may have to pick up the offense, you may have to pick up the defense. Special teams always picks both of them up, whether it's punting or returning.
Yeah, a lot of great points, because even though they won by a big amount, Campbell came out and said this was not a clean game, if we're being completely honest here. And so let's talk about what we did before we talk about the things that maybe need to clean up. And we're starting with the special teams, because it's all 3 phases. We know Khalif, we know Coach Phipp, both got game balls after the game, very well deserved. Coach, you talked about Anzalone blocking down there on that one of those returns. Dorsey had a nice return as well. And so all 3 phases play a role, and this helped the Lions offense have a shorter field to have to get through, James. So what were you seeing out of the return game and the special teams to help the offense early?
Yeah, all of their returns were long, and Raymond had 5 returns for 190 yards, averaged 38, and he had one other long one called back on a holding call in Jalen Reeves-Maben. That was another return that was 30, 40 yards, I think, at least, or something. And so 262 combined return yardage, and that's only on 6 returns, 5 punt, 1 kick.
And James, if that penalty had not been called back, I believe that would have given Raymond the NFL record for the most punt return yards in a game, because Dan Campbell said he was like 19 yards or something like that short of the NFL record.
Yeah, it's just impressive. The whole special teams. He was seeing it and just finding those creases, and it was just pretty exciting to watch. Just how he was flowing with his blockers and able to just pick up what they were going to do, and how many of his blockers were able to get out in front of him.
Yeah, and that set up a short field for the Lions. Again, Coach, is there anything you want to talk about with the blocking? You already mentioned Anzalone, but extra points all made, field goals made, everything from special teams seemed to be dialed in really well, which really helped because there were some things to clean up from the other areas. So does it help that the special teams excelled as well as it did today?
Oh, for sure. And I think it's just something else people have to, it's like an offense when you're on a return. They're running offensive plays. They got guys crossing and doubling and pinning and R3s. R3, we used to call it where you trap the right side guy, with two guys. And I mean, I'm just watching them do that stuff. Dorsey, he goes 72 yards for a kickoff return, turns into the Brock Wright's touchdown. Happy tight end day, boys. Huh? Love it. And always throw the tight end. They're always open. But anyways, and then let's go back. Two things I want to cover. Bates, okay? Have you guys noticed how the distance of his field goals keep getting longer by the game? This was his longest kick. Last week was his longest kick. We talked about this, about them bringing him in and teaching him and getting his last week he has a game winner at 44 yards. This week he kicks a 51 yard. We're just building them up for week 17, 18, 19, hit that 70 yarder. I mean, they're always coaching. Another thing we gotta remember is Fox. Foxy had 5 punts, 3 inside the 20 again. He flipped the field. Remember that bomb he had? He totally flipped the field again. And that is huge, especially on an offense that's struggling. And so those are 3 phases, guys. And again, Coach Campbell said they got some stuff to clean up, but oh boy, I'm glad I don't have to do special teams against them when they get them cleaned up.
Well, and that one that you're talking about with Fox booming it and flipping the field, that was early in the game. And so that was also important because, you could talk about that being one of the critical moments, which is, not giving the Titans some false hope or a short field to work on and making them earn it. So that was big. Another thing that was big, the Lions running game. They got the work done today. 164 yards on the ground, 6.8 yards per carry. Sonic and Knuckles did what they do. They both performed great. I think when we get to one of the critical moments, the pivotal plays, I think it's going to be the Jahmyr Gibbs run for 70 yards. But what did you see out of this running game, James?
The same old that we come to expect from these two. That when they want to, they can just run the ball down your throat, especially behind this line with Zeitler back and in this line at full strength, and those 2 running backs behind them. That's the norm, I think, now. It's just the expectation.
Coach, how about you on the Lions running game? And again, the stats we're looking at are mostly through 3 quarters because then you saw Craig Reynolds come in the game. You saw a whole different shift in that 4th quarter.
Well, I think, again, the big run, and then, Gibbs was just popping off 9, 8, 9, 10 yarders. Here's the thing I was looking at. St. Brown, Jared Goff, and Monty combined less than 135 yards. And we scored 52 points. Right. So I'm just thinking about that. Now, Monty, he had some, Gibbs just had those big ones because, again, we didn't get a ton of carries with those guys because of the short field, because of what we did on special teams and what we did on defense with the turnovers. But it's unbelievable. And again, like James said, we're going to run. We can run you over. We can run around you. We can take an outside zone play and turn it into 70 yards, or we can take an inside zone play and turn it into 10 or 15 or 70. So it's just, and our 5 offensive linemen together are definitely the best run blocking line in the league.
Yeah, and then when the run, everyone's expecting that to run right up the middle or to the side, we'll just do a little more creativity because that's what the Lions do. And Laporta looks like he's going to block, and then he goes out and David Montgomery throws the touchdown to him. That's another touchdown on National Tight Ends Day, James, to a tight end.
Yeah, that was just such a great pass. The one from Monty you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Montgomery played quarterback in high school.
Well, it showed.
And he looked like it on that play. I think he was on the St. Brown podcast when he talked about that, I think. that he played quarterback in high school and was a dual threat quarterback and could throw the ball. So he had some nice zip on that. I mean, that was a dart.
Yeah, it wasn't. Again, the play action, all that stuff. It was a similar thing where they made it look like they were going to run the ball, and then it looked like St. Brown was going to block, and there was nobody within like a half a mile of St. Brown in the end zone. I've never seen him so open in his life. And you said it, Coach. He only had 7 yards, 2 catches, 1 touchdown, but that was an incredible play that they were so focused in on the run. And again, that's what that run game does for our pass game is they've got to acknowledge it. I mean, even Diggs took the wrong angle on the Gibbs run and was kind of going inside a little bit. And so that's really helped out the pass game as well.
Oh, totally agree. The Gibbs run, if Diggs goes outside, Gibbs goes inside. Diggs goes inside, Gibbs goes outside. The announcers are always, Diggs went the wrong way. Well, whatever. You got a guy that ran 22.3 miles an hour on a 70-yard touchdown run. And if you go outside, he's going inside. If you go inside, he's going outside. That's what we see. That's what we do. And it's funny. I want to bring up that touchdown to St. Brown, as the announcers were like, man, you think they would know that St. Brown's not going to block or chip a DN? And I'm like, guys, do you watch the Lions? And I brought this up 2 weeks ago about St. Brown and Laporta last year in a game where St. Brown and Laporta were the 2 protectors on the backside, and they ran the route to Raymond and Reynolds. And so pay attention, guys. They block. They don't care. And you know what? And if you don't rush hard, then you're not going to get to the quarterback anyways. It's a chip thing. So, yeah, you know what? Another great play design. Watch some more film on our Lions, please.
Well, that's exactly it. Because, St. Brown's not taking plays off blocking or passing, and he takes pride in his blocking as much as anybody else does. Yeah. Offense was also 5 for 5 in the red zone, guys. Campbell brought that up. Even though certain things didn't work perfect for them in this game, 5 for 5 in the red zone. James, you got to like that stat.
Oh, of course. I mean, the only time the Lions have been bad in that category this season was the game they lost to Tampa Bay. So if they convert on their red zone opportunities, they're going to win pretty much all the time. It's just, and it was impressive on how they did it. It's when they get to the red zone is when they pull out a lot of those trick plays. And so that makes a defense have to think even more. And when you have less space to work with, thinking for an extra split second is bad.
Yeah, exactly. Because you don't have it, and then suddenly they're in the end zone. Guys, anything else you want to touch on the offense before I move us over to the defense for things we liked?
One thing, just some interesting statistics.
Yeah.
The thing over the last 4 games, the Lions have scored 162 points and 21 touchdowns. It's the most points and touchdowns the Lions have ever scored in any 4-game span in a single season. Jared Goff has the highest completion percentage and passer rating in a 5-game span in NFL history. So the best quarterback play over a 5-game span in NFL history. 83% completion. That's just insane. And Bates was 11 for 11. So
Yep.
to start his career for the Lions, the first kicker to ever do that. With Detroit.
He passed Austin Seibert, I believe, for that record. And Austin Seibert, his team, I think, won today. He has some field goals for Washington. But, Bates is kicking in a different stratosphere, though.
Yeah, the Commanders, about all they do is field goals and Hail Marys.
Yeah, and James, those are some incredible stats with Goff. The Lions of a team are now at 6-1. They said this is the first 6-1 start since 1956 for the Lions.
Mm-hmm.
But I love those.
57. And what the Lions do in 57.
Yeah. Well, and you know what? In 1957, they scored 59 points in the NFL championship game. They had 52 today. They show that that's like that ties for the third most they've ever scored. But as Coach pointed out, that was through 3/4 of play. And so, all right, well, a big reason for that success and for that help was a short field. And the defense played a big, big role in that one. Defense got turnovers. Trevor Nowaski got an interception. Amik Robertson had 2 punch-outs. Kirby Joseph had an interception. The defense getting those turnovers, that's what Campbell talked about coming into this game, is that was the reason Tennessee was losing games. Well, I don't think it's coincidental. I think it's coached this way, is that trend continued. It's not just happenstance. And we've been seeing a lot of this, Coach, out of the Lions. You see them intentionally going for the ball a lot. And it's not just don't tackle the guy and trying to rip the ball out the way you saw, 10, 15 years ago out of teams. No, they're going in there. They're trying to make the tackle, but another guy's coming in and actually trying to get the ball. Tell me about this turnover stat. Tell me how the defense did this stuff.
Oh, it's huge. It's, they call it the peanut punch, whatever. They got 18 different names for it. Everybody's practicing it now. Well, we know the Lions are practicing. Dan Campbell even talked about it. We did it on the high school, did it on the college level. You practice that stuff, especially if you see a ball carrier who carries the ball a little loose. But, last week, we'll bring up, Monty last week, they punched Monty out. Maybe they saw something with Monty when he gets to a certain area before he makes a cut, the hand comes out a little bit. So it's just great. I mean, in critical situations, start the game off by getting an interception right away. Getting a punch out. So Isaiah Thomas had a fumble recovery too today, guys, I think. Right? I wish he would have knocked the ball. I wish he would have knocked the ball out, because then we could have gave him an assist. Never mind.
That's true. Because,
anyway.
Coach, you did see for Halloween, he dressed up as Isaiah Thomas.
Well,
Brilliant.
I told you that's why I like him. I like him even more. Guys he knows what it's all about being in Detroit. He's smart. He's on the roster. He ain't going anywhere. But anyways, going back to the turnover stuff, and that again, those are phases. We talked about it in the pregame about this, that they were -9, right? The Titans. We talked about, I said, if they win the turnover battle, we could be in trouble. And again, I'll guarantee, that's infectious, or that's you turn one over. What are these guys on the sideline saying? Callahan does not have them to a point yet to overcome those things where the ice in the vein teams, guys that have been coached up, don't worry about it, let's go move on. Hey, the defense is going to make a stop. Well, boom, 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 boom for them. And it, it just keeps happening. Callahan, I know that they talked to Callahan about it, and I saw it in a presser that he said, I have to figure out how to get these guys to play over those. So huge part of the game. Again, another one of those 3 phases, and we won that one also.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and those interceptions, they were just baiting Mason Rudolph. Jerry Jeudy was sitting on that route, and as soon as he saw Mason Rudolph cock the ball back and look at that receiver, he was breaking on that route. Trevor Nowaski on the thing, the tight end was just standing there, wasn't running a route really. The tight end was just standing there, and Trevor just stood behind him and waited for the ball to be thrown. And when he did, he broke on it, and because the tight end was just standing there and not doing anything. He knew exactly where it was going.
Yeah, the Kirby Joseph interception was impressive. It, like you said, it's like they baited him a little bit on that. And it's just great play by the Lions defense. And I'll probably bring up the Nowaski interception as a pivotal moment, because the Lions had gone 3 and out, and it kept Tennessee from getting on the board first. And so they got the turnovers. That was the biggest thing. Early on, there was some good pressure. DJ Reader got in there early, and he made a nice tackle on Pollard that saved it from being a big gain down the field. And that was the same drive where the interception happened. And so, and then McNeil had a nice breakup nice tackle. And then Davis had a good breakup after that, forcing another punt. So the defense did play pretty stout early on. Anything else you want to throw out about the defense, James?
Well, Campbell and Anzalone were everywhere. Anzalone had a couple of great plays. He had the only sack of the game. And then I love his celebration after a sack too. The Thor's hammer, hitting the hammer on the ground. That is just great.
That was awesome. Coach, you have anything else on defense you want to touch on?
I just, we did start out bad. We were, I mean, even with that, Pollard had 20 carries for 95 yards. Ridley had 118 yards in the first quarter. 118 yards in the first quarter. He had 10 receptions for 143. I think 6 of those were in the first quarter. And granted, Rudolph was throwing some dimes. I mean, he made some great passes, and I think he felt comfortable. But I think once we got him off his spot, once we started, getting a little bit of pressure on him, then he realized, oh my God, it's back. It's going to happen just like it has the last time I started. So, but we rose to the occasion, and bend, don't break. One of the best defensive plays that we haven't talked about is the 4 plays on the 1 yard line. First and goal at the 1 with Pollard, and they tried to throw the ball 4 times. And we just had some great coverages. My favorite coverage is the last one where it's called banjo. I used to call it banjo, where we flip the coverage guys. Instead of following the guy all the way across formation, we follow them till they half, pass them on to the next guy, and get for the next crosser that's coming. That's why whatchamacallit ended up out of bounds, because he had to go around him. And I was jumping for joy when I saw that, because the NFL doesn't do that much. They lock on people, and Aaron Glenn called a great defense in that concept. But we were ready for every one of those pass plays. And again, those are huge goal line stands that are going to come to play in the next couple, and then, the rest of the season, and with the big games we have coming up. So just wanted to shout out for that. 4 plays from the 1 yard line, 0 points.
Well, and then, that's one of the turning points or pivotal moments I've got listed here. Was right before half. They had that first and goal. They were up 30. Lions were up 35-14 at that point going into half. If they score, it's 35-21 and get the ball coming out. And they never ran Pollard once on that, which just blew my mind, because I'm sorry, but he seemed a little bit. Pollard did not have a bad game. And James, I know I'm not the only one that was surprised about this.
Yeah, that was just completely head scratching. I mean, I think the strength of their offense has been the left side of their line, and with the Lions playing so many new guys in there on the edge, I would think that would be the thing they would go for in that situation. 4 shots for getting 1 yard. Yeah, just plow ahead with Pollard. And he was having a solid game. I think they just kind of outsmarted themselves there.
Yeah, I would agree on that one. I was like that was big, because then again, you're still up 21 going into half. And another point that was pivotal turning moment was, I believe it was 7-7. The Lions just got the ball, and that's when Gibbs had a 70-yard run. And, like Coach said, we weren't stopping the pass that well early on in this game. And so it was like, okay, and we went 3 and out at one point, and they were getting some pressure on Goff. And so I was like, okay, we need to lean on the run game in this game. And Gibbs took us 70 yards. We're up 14-7, and we never really looked back after that. So I thought that 70-yard run by Gibbs was pretty pivotal. James, Coach, you guys got anything on that?
Like you said, I think that 4th down, getting that stop on 1st and goal from the 1, and them not getting a score, I think that was kind of the nail in the coffin for them. And the second half, they came out and they just didn't look like, like they were just mentally beaten after that.
Yeah, for sure. And I think in the second half too, we started to get a little bit more pressure on him. I thought Muhammad had some pretty good pressures, kind of pushing him back into it. I thought Thomas Houston had a couple nice plays. He had that one, where he pressure and then he got a hold of the quarterback and threw him with one hand. So I think we started. Levi, of course, is steady Eddie. And so I think that was nice. Again, they came out at halftime going, oh my God, if we score right here, and the Lions put it on them. And I think that, it helped with a little bit of pressure from the newer guys, and probably some adjustments that we made at halftime.
Yeah, Houston actually, and I think it was on that play you were talking about where he got the one hand on the quarterback and just threw him kind of. didn't get the sack, but that looked like the James Houston that we saw 2 seasons ago when he had that incredible hot streak, where he got that low bend and was able to go around the tackle like that. It's kind of one of the first times I've seen it since then. He seemed after that ankle injury to just have not been able to pull that move off nearly as well. And I thought that was pretty encouraging.
Yeah, he had a nice downfield tackle too on a long run away from him, and he kind of just came across. I watched him and well, guys, he looked like he's lazy. No, and he kind of just kept himself. And once the guy broke the edge, he'd be shot in and made the tackle. Still a big gain, but those are things that I should be warrant well for him. I hope, we hope because we need his. I think we need his body, but yeah. So good stuff for Houston. Hopefully it all comes out in film. That eye in the sky won't lie when they get in that film room.
Yeah, I agree, and that's the thing. We would love to see a little bit positive momentum going forward for him because our defensive line could use that. 35 points in the first half. That's the most by the Lions in the first half of a game since 1970. And at one point, they had 35 points on 28 passing yards. All right, so I get it. We won 52-14, but we do have to ask, is there something we should be concerned about? Anything to worry about? Anything the Lions need to clean up? Obviously, you're not going to have a perfect passer rating every game. You're not going to run for 180 yards every game, throw for 400 yards every game, have 12 sacks and 25 interceptions. But Coach Campbell even said it. There's some things to clean up in this one. Coach, we'll start with you. What's something that maybe jumped out at you? And, I mean, there's a few things. So what do you want to start with?
I'm concerned with our left side, especially when it's an open end side. They're getting those cross routes and getting pressure on him. Goff got banged up a little bit early. He twisted his ankle and get a tape, played on it. I watched it. As soon as it happened. I could see him get up and he was flexing that ankle. Of course, I got really nervous, especially when we started throwing a little bit in the third quarter. It looks like they cleaned it up a little bit, but it seems like we've been getting a lot of, and I don't want to say a lot, but some things that I'm sure Fraley and the offensive line guys are going to work on with our left side and the speed rushers on the edge and even the games that they've been running. You're seeing more games against us on our left side on the defensive right than you are on the other side because you have Sewell and Zeitler over there, and clean it up a little bit. And I think that's one thing where they bring not JMO down. They bring St. Brown down or a tight end and use them to chip, and then go from there. So, but they'll get that. They'll definitely get that worked out. That's really my only concern.
All right, and James, the Lions, Goff threw 12 times or completed 12 passes on 15 attempts, only 85 yards. They had short fields. They were able to run the ball, but he also did not have tons of time to throw it, like Coach was saying. Is that starting to concern you at all about the pressure over there on the left side of the offensive line?
Yeah, it was a little bit of a concern. Taylor Decker had a few plays there where he just did not look great. Not like what we're used to seeing from Taylor Decker. Arden Key gave him fits at times. And he had, I think, 2 sacks. He had a couple other pressures. So that was a trouble spot. The other thing that concerns me is Rodrigo's injury because it's just another guy from the front 7 on defense. Campbell said after the game that it's not something that's season ending, but by saying that tells me it's probably a multi-game, something that's going to cost him multiple games. So that's just one more guy we're down.
Yeah, and Rodrigo has played a larger role as this season's gone on and had a very positive impact. And so and one more guy in the front 7 that's down. And the less impactful that front 7 is, the more that falls on the back half of that defense. And so I guess if we're looking at the front 7, we gave up 158 yards on the ground, guys, a 4.9 per carry average. 266 in the air. Should those numbers concern us at all, Coach? That's 158 on the ground, or is it a lot of these stats don't matter so much because the game was so abnormal and it was over halfway through the third quarter?
Yeah, I didn't check and see what the numbers were in the fourth quarter, because you got to kind of take those off or put a bunch of different guys in. The first quarter was the alarming part, with the 118 yards passing, and Pollard had some good runs, but we also, it showed up again. The bend don't break. They boom boom. They got some good guard. They got some good yarders. They moved down the field. They got down to first and goal at the 1 yard line, and we stopped, or we created a turnover and stuff like that. So we're creating those big instances on defense when we need them, which is awesome. And long as we can continue to do that, the bend don't break isn't bad. But that's not Aaron Glenn's defense. So I'm sure he's going to try to work that out quick, because I don't think he likes that. I know the one touchdown pass where Trevor got caught in no man's land. Do I cover the guy, or do I go to the quarterback? And I'm not sure if you saw the confrontation on the sidelines with Glenn and his safety, Joseph, because that was Joseph's man, which if Joseph had come across with him on that crossing route, he would have probably gave Trevor the command, go get him, or I'm here. And Trevor had no clue on what to do on that one. So, a little of both. I mean, he made a great play. So anyways, those are things that'll get fixed out. So I don't, again, not to worry about it, but once we get that front established, then we should be in good shape.
Yeah, and you're exactly right. Trevor was in no man's land, because if he went after him, the guy was wide open for just a lob pass. And so he just tried to stall and see if he could get Rudolph to make a mistake. It didn't happen. You're right on the coverage. The rushing, I looked up the numbers here because I kind of monitor the stats after every quarter. Through 3 quarters of play, Titans only has 79 yards rushing, which means they got 79 yards in the fourth quarter when it didn't matter, right? And when we had a lot of backup guys in. So that tells me the running game, for the most part, rush defense was getting the job done for us. The pass rush needs to have a little bit more speed, a little bit get through more. I don't know what, but we needed more of a pass rush, because a great quarterback, and we didn't play a great quarterback today, but a great quarterback with that much time will continue to pick you apart throughout the whole game. So, James, what were you seeing on the pass rush? I think you mentioned Alex Anzalone was the only line with a sack today.
Yeah, he was the only one. I mean, they were able to get some pressure, but I mean, yeah, Rudolph did have, I think, a little bit too much time. He got a little too comfortable. They were able to get the two picks, but that was kind of where they just read his eyes and baited him and jumped routes. But other than that, I mean, he was actually fairly, adequate for as an NFL quarterback in that game. The turnovers didn't help him. He didn't get any help at all from his special teams, which gave the Lions short fields, and the Lions converted those into quick touchdowns. And that's part of the reason why the Lions don't have big offensive numbers in this game, is because of the special teams did. So, I mean, there's those, the hidden yards that Jerry talks about a lot. There was a lot of them in this game, 262, I think it was. So that's a lot if you add that into the offense. So I'm not really too worried about the lack of big offensive numbers and Goff only throwing for 85 yards, because when they needed to throw, it seemed like they were able to.
Makes sense. And I think I saw a stat at one point, the Lions' average starting position was their own 48-yard line. And so when you're starting at your own 48 and the other team's starting like their own 25, unless you play Tecmo Bowl and you go back and purposely get sacked at like your own 10-yard line so you can throw a 90-yard pass, you're just not going to put the stats up. And so that's what happened. They put the points up without all the yardage. All right. Anything else that's concerning you right now before we move on to major storylines and we talk about potentials for the pass rush here? All right. Well, major storylines. First one I got is, again, James, you already brought up Malcolm Rodriguez went out with that ankle injury. Not expected long term, but if he misses any time, that's one more depth piece on that front seven that hurts us. So that brings us to the broken record, right, that we got going on here. Where are we standing with the defensive line and the linebackers? Isaiah Thomas came in. He played. He had an impact. That was good. Coach, we saw some young guys getting some opportunities here today. Did anybody catch your eye?
No, I think, I brought up Houston. I thought that, the D line did a good job. There was some good one. We got some good pressure. Reader had that good play there. I liked Muhammad. I thought he had some great push. He looked like a Davenport type of rusher guy. I think they talked about Thomas and him being that way. We got more people with more game experience, which is huge. A lot of things too. You got to remember when you're doing games and stuff, tackle and twists and stuff like that. We've had a lot of different bodies in there over the last 2 weeks from those guys. Before Hutch's injury, we at least had 2 or 3 games of, 3, maybe 4 games of kind of the same guys that have been working together. So these guys come in, they got to learn, okay, am I supposed to step harder left? Am I supposed to go harder right? Rodrigo is a huge part. Some of our best blitzes that we've had is Rodrigo coming on that cross blitzer where he takes the tackle out and then we loop inside on a tackle end twist with the backer. So those are the things that, oh my God, we got to panic. Yeah, we do have to panic a little bit, but I still think that he, like Dan Campbell said, step up, hold your spot, and we don't have to worry about anything. And that's what's happening right now. We're seeing a lot of people stepping up, but more games. But I still think we need that one guy that we know is going to pin his ears back, and he is probably going to get to the quarterback in certain situations when need be. So,
yeah, the defensive line could use that pass rush. I think everybody in Lions Nation agrees with that thought. Who's it going to be? Is it going to happen? That's what we're all waiting on. And we got Isaiah Thomas off the Browns practice squad, and he might be a good key contributor as we go down the rest of the season. But I still think it's important to get a starter off of a team, somebody that's starting caliber. Doesn't have to be the best starter off the team either. And so, I know a lot of people want the big name, but we've seen the Lions get a guy who fits the system and they get that much more production out of him versus just the name. And so, what are we down to, like 12 days or something? I'm kind of just randomly guessing here, but something like that, or 10 days. It's a week from Tuesday. So we've got one more game, and then you got 48 hours after that game, basically, before the trade deadline. And so I think, I know Jordan Love got injured. They don't know what he's going to look like for next week. But if you brought up the point, James, Mason Rudolph played pretty adequately. And he's not in the same category as some of these other quarterbacks that the Lions are facing. So I'm expecting the Lions to make some sort of a move. I still am. And I know everyone's waiting to see and everyone's speculating on it. But my opinion hasn't changed. I think they're going to bring in at least one more guy. You need the depth with all these games to go. Yeah, James, are you of the same opinion?
Oh yeah, I think they'll bring in at least one guy, maybe even 2. They could look at the guy that the defensive end edge guy that the Giants just released a couple days ago. Could be somebody that I could see them sign into the practice squad and then seeing if he can add any juice to that. Coming out of college, he was supposed to be a big time prospect, but just hasn't really worked out so far. He's also kind of been buried on the depth chart on both of the 2 teams that he's been in the NFL. So that's kind of hampered him too, I think, a little bit.
Makes sense. And Coach, you talked about backups getting experience, right? And at one point, I think we had 3 backup offensive linemen in there. So that was good. Just getting more guys to get more reps. And I went out on a limb on the last show, and I said Hendon Hooker would make an appearance in this game. Played a little bit more than I was expecting, but at the same time, couldn't get in the game soon enough, in my opinion. And, Coach, you're texting me on that as well. And so, it was good to have Hendon in there, get Goff out, especially after being banged up like that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the live snaps, man, huge. And what the first thing they do, they have him throw a screenplay. I love it. And then come out, and then he just handed the ball off after that. But at least, there's probably a couple of times he could have took off and run, but I'm sure they told him do not do that. And just get in there and get the feel of it. I actually had hoped for one more turnover just so he'd get one more set of downs. But but again, it's huge. The offensive lineman guys got in there. The DBs got in there. You got, it's such a big thing because again, I say it all the time, film don't lie, eye in the sky don't lie. They're going to see themselves on film in live action and not against another team, from the Honolulu Blue or, the preseason. And it's going to be good for it. It's going to pay off in the long run. As we see, we have each week, especially in the NFL, people have to come in and be able to step up. So, but anyways, one thing I was hoping a couple guys didn't get on the plane to fly to Tennessee. I was hoping a couple of those guys stayed back. That would have been really nice, preferably number 49 and Mr. Landry, but I didn't do that. And the other one is the weirdest thing is was it Yusha, the guy that was a healthy scratch today for one of the other teams? He's got to be out there. I kind of told you guys that, or I said something to you guys about, hiding somebody or keeping somebody. I know you only have those three times you can bring them up, but healthy scratches are weird on somebody that's a starting player for you. So to be continued.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we were 2 for 3 on predictions from the last episode. In that Matt got his, Jerry got his with the Lions getting a defensive pass interference call on the Raymond one, and then I just whiffed like Javi Baez on mine.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. It was your ref report where I said the Lions would draw a defensive pass interference call. And I don't always go back to what I've said the previous episode because most of the time I'm probably not on. But I went out on a limb and I said Hendon would play. I don't know if this is going to happen. And first quarter's going on. I'm like, can we just win this game? But obviously the right team prevailed. The talent elevated. It rose to the top. So... all right. Well, James, any final thoughts before we get out of here?
Well, next week they should get Josh Paschal back. Supposedly the little procedure thing that he had done was just a tiny little thing related to his when he had cancer when he melanoma when he was in college in Kentucky, and so he goes and has a yearly checkup on that, and apparently they found something and did something minor, and he's only expected to miss the 1 week, so he should be back next week, and so they get that back, and and maybe some other reinforcements through the trade or free agent route, and then who needs Jamison Williams? I guess
we do.
Yeah,
for now.
I know, but they look pretty good without him.
Yeah.
They did. They did look really good. I hope we don't miss him next week against Green Bay. Fortunately, we do have a ton of weapons. Coach, what do you want to add here?
I just, the other injury too, I think it was Dorsey went into the tent after the return. He got hit on that last punt return. Was that Dorsey?
I think it was Raymond.
Was it Raymond? Oh, so he was fine in the locker room. So, okay, somebody was, I just remember seeing that. I meant to look that up afterwards and say, who was that? But, took a little shot, but, and Brian Branch had 2 pass interference calls, guys.
Yeah.
And again, I don't care because you know what? This is what we do. Keep doing it.
Oh, hey, we actually didn't go around the NFC North yet. We know Green Bay won on a last-second field goal again. That's Brandon McManus. They have a solid kicker over there now. That guy has done well in the NFL for a while, with the Broncos for a long time. And so that solidifies an area that was a trouble area for them coming out of training camp. So they're up to 6-2. The Vikings, they lost on Thursday night. They are at 5-2. That keeps the Lions hangover, if you will, going another week. And the Bears lost on a last-second Hail Mary that bounced at like the 5-yard line or goal line and then into the end zone. I mean, bounced off hands up into the air. And so everyone still has a winning record in the NFC North, even though 2 of the teams lost this week. Coach, anything you want to talk about the division real quick?
Oh, we know it's the black and blue is back, and this week's going to be huge. Huge for both teams, and I just think it's it's going to be a tone setter. The nice thing is we played on the road already in one, playing on the road in the second one. So let's get the road wins out, squeak a couple of those out, and then take care of the home field advantage down the stretch.
For sure. And I'll be honest, I didn't know who I wanted to win in that Washington-Chicago game because we get to play Chicago twice. We don't get to play Washington at all. And I was like, oh, one more loss for Washington would probably be good just to help with the number 1, number 2 seeding and stuff for later in the season, should we be fortunate enough to be in that position. James, what do you see in NFC North, NFC picture? What's jumping out to you?
Well, I mean, we'll see how the Titans do next week and see if they keep the Honolulu flu going, as people are calling it, that nobody that plays the Lions wins the next week. But yeah, I mean, the Bears didn't look very great in that game against the Commanders. From what I saw, their offense really struggled with the Commanders. And if you're going to play the Packers, don't let them get within a Brandon McManus field goal.
Yeah.
That's right, and they have to not let us get within a Jake Bates field goal.
Which is in the stadium.
I was just going to say that might be from the goal line.
Yeah, or depending where the wind's blowing, maybe the parking lot. Who knows? Well, Tennessee, I don't know. They got a good shot at ending that streak. They play the Patriots next week, who are 2-6. I know they won, I think, today, but that could be a good matchup for Tennessee next week. All right, guys, great show. Folks, thank you so much for tuning in. You can find more episodes and content at notthesameoldlions.com. Tell your friends and family about the show. Like, subscribe, comment on socials. And until next time, stay gritty, my friends.